Hey everybody, welcome back to another What Sold video. We are going to be talking about almost a month ago before we went on our vacation. So it's a little bit longer than a week, but I just decided to go up right until we shut our shops down for vacation. So, and then I included also the Ruby Lane sales that I had forgotten to put in, in my last What Sold video. So those actually cover a couple of weeks. Anyway, I just wanted to just mention something real quick. It's the beginning of April, and Mr. Pish Posh and I have this conversation every year. We're like, man, it's so slow. Like sales just like died because we didn't do too bad. March was okay. Even coming back from vacation, it wasn't that bad. But we have to remind ourselves every year that first 2 weeks of April are like our worst selling time of the year, it feels like. And I think it mostly has to do with taxes being due, and a lot of people like ourselves who are going to end up owing our taxes, some taxes, kind of wait till the last minute to do it. So I don't know, that's just my personal opinion. Anyway, so I just wanted to reassure you if you're kind of experiencing a little slowdown, it's not just taxes. There's a lot of spring breaks happening right now, so parents are a little distracted, kids are home, things like that. So it's not quite the summer slowdown, but it's like this little blip that happens in April. So I also have to take some responsibility for it. I feel like it's been rough kind of getting back into the groove after our vacation. And so we probably are not listing as much or consistently as we could as well. So that always plays a part. So let's hop over to the computer. We're going to talk about, I think it starts on March 10th. It goes to like the 16th or 17th. And we'll see what's sold. There's actually quite a few fun little things to talk about today. So we're starting off with eBay like we usually do. We have this necktie by Polo Ralph Lauren. Let me pop down to the label, kind of typical label there. I used quatrefoil. I don't know if that's even necessary. Nobody probably is searching by that. But geometric, just kind of an interesting little pattern for Polo Ralph Lauren. And I pick up most Polo Ralph Lauren ties that I find, especially ones I think are from like the 90s or 2000s, and they seem to always do pretty well. Some, we've talked about in necktie videos before, Polo Ralph Lauren, if they've got big scenes on them of like hunting or a fox hunt or something like that, that's going to be big money. But these just kind of like, geometric, paisley, whatever. I'm happy when I get like $25 for those, and they generally go pretty quickly. The next sale we're going to talk about is, I forgot to ask Mr. Pish Posh why someone would want this. He has it as for parts or repair. It says it's non-functional and won't charge. I totally forgot to ask him. But I guess maybe there's something on there that they can use. I don't know. He got $20 for it, so I'm not saying run out and buy and sell all the broken battery chargers that you can find, but anyway. Okay, so I just checked with Mr. Pish Posh, and the answer is kind of obvious. It's because DeWalt tools and even their chargers, people can refurbish. They can fix them, refurbish, and sell them for more, add them to a tool that they're trying to sell, whatever, or just even use it. But I guess they're repairable if you know what you're doing. So obviously that makes a whole lot of sense. Next up, some flatware. So this Waterford Castlebridge dinner forks, these 4 pieces sold. Let's see, I'm trying to get down to my solds on my phone because they're a little more accurate. These sold for $40. And it says it was a repeat buyer. It says 2 available, 2 sold. I think I had already sold the other 4 earlier, maybe to the same buyer. I don't know. But anyway, I took a $40 offer on those. And so these are Oneida Community Frostfire teaspoons. I had sold a bunch of Frostfire and then I think came across some more at the thrift store. So I was happy because I knew I had recent listings that I could just sell similar off of. This one was, someone bought 2 sets of 4. I had 12 total. So they had bought 2 sets. So we ended up at about $50 for the 8 teaspoons. Next up is some hardware. I talked about this set before, not this set, but Mr. Pish Posh had 2 sets like this, and this finish is called Japanned, especially on there. It's like, it says Cannonball, Japanned Copper Flash. Now, the condition on these isn't as good as the ones he had sold earlier, so his price was lower, and he ended up selling these for $40. Next up is the shirt that I talked about on the thumbnail and in the title, that this is a label that you want to get to know because it is a Ralph Lauren label, but it might not be completely obvious. So here's the picture of it. The reason I say it might not be completely obvious is that my thrift store did not price it at like $20 or something like they probably normally would. They do price some things higher, knowing that they have half off sales pretty often. So as you can see, this is a flannel shirt. It was distressed. You see in my title, it was distressed. It had some wear, as you can see, on the cuffs, and here's some more marks and wear and things like that. But the key to this one, this label is considered double RL. Okay, so it's an R and then a backwards R and then an L, and it goes by the double RL kind of nickname. Okay, so what was interesting is I saw this at the thrift store. It was like $6 on half off day, which means I paid $3 for this. And, you know, there's not hundreds, but this particular thrift store, there's so many flannel shirts there right now. And I saw the label and I was like, why did nobody buy this? And it was on the day that they do half off the entire store. And so it had been full of resellers all day long. So they do put out new merchandise as the day goes on. So that is also a likely possibility that it had just been put out. But also the fact that they didn't price it very high, maybe because it was distressed, I don't know. So I did double check in the store that this was still going to be worth it in the condition it was. And I did. I found a sold at about $100 or so with even a little bit more distressing than mine. And so I said, all right. And I threw it in the cart. I was like, hey, if I get $50, I'm good, right? Well, doing more research, I was like, you know what? The distressing is not such a big deal on this. It was kind of a desirable, probably older, probably Y2K, possibly 90s shirt. And it sold within a few days for my full asking price of $130. So not bad for a flannel shirt. Here's the rest of the teaspoons. They sold a couple days later, the last 4, and those sold for $24.99. I also sold these vintage soup spoons. They're called Pageant Harvest. Let me find it. Yeah, just made in Japan. I think the brand name is Pageant. The pattern name is Harvest is what it was. But this is the type of thing I sold when my flatware shop on Etsy was really kicking. I sold this stuff all day long. So as I'm slowly building up that flatware shop, I'm cross-posting. I'm putting it on eBay, cross-posting over to Etsy as well. But a lot of these things are also selling on eBay. So I just wanted to share that some of this vintage stuff that in my mind in the past had done so well on Etsy, also can find an audience on eBay too. Okay, so then I sold this coffee mug for $25. It was milk glass. It had a nice big graphic R on there. So another monogram style mug or an initial mug. And milk glass, it's not maybe as hot as it was a few years back, but it finally found its buyer for the full asking price of $24.99. Then we had this Duluth Trading Company twill. It was called a presentation jacket. I had a couple jackets by Duluth Trading. One went really fast. This green one took a little bit longer, but it did sell for $44. Then we also had some more flatware. So this, I was happy with the price on these knives, Mikasa Dune. And I believe when I found these were the only pieces I found in this pattern. But Mikasa can be, Dune is one of the good Mikasa patterns to keep an eye out for. I might not have realized how good the knives would end up being when I picked them up, but I was happy with that $40. Next up, we have some utensils. And these are mid-century modern style utensils. They're only marked stainless steel Japan. So a lot of times you'll find salad servers like this with like wooden handles or things like that. So these were all stainless, very minimalist. And I did take an offer for $22 on this set. And then hats are, they're not as much in our radar anymore because of, I've told you in the past that our really cheap source for hats has kind of dried up. And so we have hats listed. And so when they sell, it's kind of out of the blue and we're like, oh yay, a hat sold. But anyway, this was a new with tags Titleist golf visor, and it sold for the full $24.99 as well. These two mugs, I would have been happier with a higher price. Mr. Pish Posh had listed these, and I probably would have listed them individually. But once the listing was done, I was like, if there's ever time in my life, I'll divide them up and try them that way. But we got an offer. I think it was even lower, but possibly, I don't know. Can't remember back that far. And anyway, got an $18 offer. I'm sure it was a day we were just kind of trying to move some things because things had slowed down a little bit. So we took it. Also took an offer on this new with tags Wrangler jacket. It wasn't necessarily vintage, and it was actually embroidered with a guy's name Dale, and then like Chevrolet, like a Chevrolet dealership or something like that in Montana. But, we thought somebody might want this somewhere, and it was new with tags, so it was interesting, right? So there we go. And anyway, it took a while. We had to delist, relist, kind of do all that kind of thing again to get it in front of new eyes, and it sold for $40. This next one was an international sale for one of these little brass plaques that we have. I think there's just one left. This one is for Brig. So it also was the full asking price, and it, we used like man cave or study decor, things like that. Just kind of a funny little accent for someone to have. And then I think the last sale that we had before we shut our stores down for vacation was this Braun replacement shaver blade kind of thing. And we sold that for $21. Interesting, it does say it's a repeat buyer. I don't know. It just says they've bought from us in the last 2 years. So not sure what else they bought from us. I just noticed that just now. Okay. Then let's see. That one's this. Let's go over to Poshmark. So on Poshmark, we have this beanie. It just said Scotland on the sides. It kind of covers the ears and everything. That sold for $15. And I think it was the same day we went from a winter hat to like a spring hat. This was a little bucket hat that, again, I had to end and relist in order to get fresh eyes on it for the spring. And I remember picking this up at the bins back in the day when hats were plentiful there at the bins, and hardly paid anything for it. That just sold for $14. Sold this Coach watch for $34 on Poshmark. I think I got this at the jewelry sale that I went to last year. It's nothing like screaming Coach, so it's not going to be high dollar, and it's just a plain leather band. But we were happy to move it along for $34. Sold this pair of men's Prana pants for $25. They were corduroy. And then this was a really good price for a Lily Pulitzer t-shirt. And in this case, it was all about the print. I don't know that I have it up close, which I should have, and I might not even have realized when I even took the pictures what I was dealing with, but there's monkeys in the pattern, okay? So it's Lily Pulitzer hanging around, you know, it's got monkeys in it. So the pattern itself kind of raised the value of it. It was a 2XL, so that helped as well, and we sold it for $40 on Poshmark. A pair of cool pants sold for $28. Just regular hiking. I think it just had some marks at the bottom where like someone maybe had folded it or cuffed it up or something like that. And they were like white, you know, whited, had become white from being folded so long. Seattle Sounders hat sold for $17. And then this was a nice little sale of this little blazer by Skies Are Blue. I think Haley Elaine talked about this brand in the past as far as a good bread and butter brand. And I do see it fairly often at my thrifts. I think she had mentioned that larger sizes are better. But I did see this one, and it was new with tags, and it was a size large. So I think I had even picked it up maybe before I had saw what Kaylee Elaine had been saying about it. Because I think I had it in my profit pile for a little while before I got it listed. But I thought it would be a nice little jacket for spring. And it had Stitch Fix labels on it, you know, as well as a price tag and things like that. So I listed it, and it sold, again, fairly quickly for $30. This Howler Brothers short sleeve button shirt only sold for $20. It's not really the style that Howler Brothers is known for. It's kind of like a chambray type shirt, and we were glad to finally move that along. And then I sold this belt, another one I picked up from the bins a long time ago, for $15. Just a wide kind of stretch belt from like probably the 80s or 90s. And like I said, that sold for $15. So let's go over to Ruby Lane. Like I said, there's quite a bit because it covers a couple weeks. These first like 5 or 6 listings I'm going to show you all went to the same buyer. So it was quite the order of a lot of breakable things. So good job, Mr. Pish Posh, on taking care of that. Anyway, they picked out this Corningware floral bouquet 6-cup little teapot type thing. That sold for $21. I should say a few of these items had like a sale. The little flash sale feature that Ruby Lane is using right now, which I'll talk more about in a different video. But anyway, so it was like 10% off what my original asking prices were. They also bought this Clyban cat mug for $16. They bought another Clyban cat mug for $17, which I'm happy because I had a bunch of these. Another one for $17. So I was glad to kind of move a bunch of these through. Also, this trinket box by the Haldon Group sold for $26 with the little leopards on the top. Kind of interesting little box. And then a mug, an Otagiri mug with owls on it for $16. And I think, yeah, that was their full order. Okay, so then a separate buyer the same day bought this little tea bag, Polish pottery tea bag holder for $11. Again, the little flash sale prompted them to buy. And then why is this doing this? Okay. I didn't realize it's doing that. I think I have to skip over each one. They changed how the solds, when you click on them, what it does. Okay, so a little melon baller utensil. Again, sold for $11. That would have been a flash sale as well. Let's pop over. This one sold for $22. It's a 1950s metal mail organizer sorter with hooks on the bottom for keys, and that sold for $22. I think I had it listed for $25, so that must have had a sale going on it as well. A nice necklace that sold really quickly. It was just a made in Japan multi-strand necklace, but it had the ombre look going on and graduated pearls. You know, they're just beads, right? Like glass beads, but tinted in these different shades of green. I thought was really interesting. That sold within a few days, I would say, for $28, which was my full price. And then we had someone also bought this Crown Trifari molded glass white flower pin brooch. We're going to see what happens there in Italy. And you generally don't ship to Italy because there can be problems with the mail. So hopefully it makes it there okay. Haven't heard anything yet, but these molded glass Trifari pins can be pretty valuable. This one, I believe, one of the little petals was cracked as well. So it wasn't perfect, and it did take a little while to sell. Okay, so there's more tabs on Ruby Lane than it makes it look like I sold more on Ruby Lane than I did. I just realized it was opening a new tab every time I clicked on a sold, and it didn't used to do that. Okay, so I also enjoyed this sale, was happy to see it go. And it wasn't listed long. I just meant it was a good price for something, and it was gratifying to have it sell. But it was just this bracelet with a hidden watch inside. You can see from this picture. Let me move this over. Okay. There you go. So you can see as you hinge open the bracelet, the watch does appear. So we got $40 for that. So I was happy about that. I also sold this compact with mother of pearl kind of little tiles on top. The brand is, I don't remember, is it Elgin or Elgin? They're kind of a lot of compacts are made by them as well as some other items. But anyway, it was in fairly good condition. I sold that for $18. And then the last thing on Ruby Lane for that before we went on vacation was this silver-plated pie server by International Silver in the brand Heritage, and that sold for $15. So let's pop over to Etsy. In the flatware shop, I sold this utensil for $24. It was by Household Stainless was the brand, and they kind of did, a pattern that would go along with the Cornflower Blue by Corning. And this was a short-handled spatula, which can be, spatulas are one of the hottest utensils that sell. Everybody wants a vintage spatula. So it was only 10.5 inches. Some spatulas, there's all that distance between the flipper part and the handle. These are called short handle flippers, but sold that one for $24. Then over in the other Mr. Pish Posh shop, oh my goodness, we had this listed for so long. And it was Pendleton, and it was wool, and it was from the 60s, and we just could not understand why no one wanted this shirt. So all I could think of it was the color, that a red wool shirt is just not what people are looking for. Even vintage Pendleton, but finally it got, it was cross-posted to Etsy. You can see the older label, and it sold for $54.99. Finally. Then over in the pattern shop, we have this Simplicity 9929 sold for $15. It's a Renaissance costume pattern. Also a Simplicity Western style shirts and vests. I think it was all sizes, men's and little boys. Sold for $14. Simplicity as well, just a kind of a basic summer dress, and it sold for $10. McCall's, I usually pick up, if I see these McCall's New York, the collection. They're definitely 90s Y2K, and so I think that's what the appeal is for them right now. They're usually like prom dress, evening dress, bridesmaid, that kind of thing, formal, and so this one sold for $16. Then this Vogue Givenchy sold for $15. It was a suit, I believe, and I guess the blouse as well. And that sold for $15. Comps weren't as high as I expected for Givenchy, but that's okay. Then this 70s, or I guess it was 80s, it must have been early 80s boho top and skirt by Butterick, sold for $14. And another Butterick from the 70s with wedding headpieces, like bridal veils and things like that, sold for $12. Okay, so those were my sales leading up right to our vacation. We did go ahead and use time away on eBay, and we made it so that our items could not be purchased. I think I just wanted the break with my brain and focus on family a little bit during that time. But there's definitely different ways that you can do that. So in the next What Sold video, it'll be the sales that happened the next week, later in the week. So I might do like another week and a half video on the next one as well. But basically, we'll try to talk a little bit more about how how we kind of came back from the vacation settings and like how we got some sales going again fairly quickly. So I'll just let you know what we did for that. So anyway, if things are slow, hang in there. You know, it's an interesting time of year. It's an interesting economic climate. There's like, this year is probably not like any other reselling year we've ever seen. So we just got to keep rolling with it and try different things out and see what happens. If something's not working, change it up. And that's what Mr. Pish Posh and I have been talking a lot about that, about different things that we're going to have to do just to kind of get through this time of year and some of these things that are happening. Anywho, as always, leave me a comment down below about your sales. You can talk about March, how it was, maybe, you know, that same time period, or compared to now. Have things slowed down for you? There's other resellers I'm seeing who are doing just fine. Things are kicking right along. So again, it can depend on what you sell. It can depend on your personal listing habits and things like that as well. So, and if you've had a great find, if you've had a great sale, go ahead and brag about it down below. We like to rejoice right along with you, and we will talk to you soon. I should have, I'm planning another Flatware Friday video this week. Surprise, surprise. And then a couple other things I have in my head as well. So we'll talk to you soon.